Hey everyone, I want to say welcome, welcome, and welcome. I am so excited to introduce you to some of the international best-selling authors in The Power of Why 25 musicians composed a legacy. I just can't believe it. I'm so excited. I want to say welcome to everyone. My name is Glory St. Germain from Ultimate Music Theory, and I am passionate about sharing ideas and just serving musicians at a deeper level. And I think this year we've all been through a lot. It's, given us an opportunity to kind of reflect on what's happened in the past and where we want to go. And so I'm hoping that when you pick up the book, The Power of Why 25 Musicians Composed a Legacy, it too will empower you to maybe think outside the box and dream big and maybe get started in composing. So we're about to meet some of the authors. They're from all around the world, and I just can't wait to connect you with them. So I want to say thank you. So The Power of Why 25 Musicians Composed a Legacy. You can grab it now, and I'll put a link below so you can connect. So I'm excited to introduce everyone. As we're working around the room, all of the authors that are able to join us today are going to just introduce themselves and the country where they're from and just why they began composing. But before we meet the authors, I want you to meet our editor. Our editor is Wendy, and she is all the way from Scotland. And I want to say thank you, Wendy, for being here with us as we're launching our third book together, our third international bestseller. So please welcome Wendy Jones. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, thank you, Glory. What a lovely introduction. And I have to say, it's my pleasure and honour to be here this evening. It's been my pleasure and honour to be involved in this series. And this book is powerful. It really is powerful. I'm Wendy. I'm from Scotland. For those who can't tell from my accent, because my accent is rather subtle, you couldn't really tell, I know it's not. That's a joke. And it's been a pleasure to be the editor. It's been a pleasure to be involved. Every person on here, every person you're about to meet is amazing. They're not only composers, they're not only musicians, but they're authors as well. And not just authors, but international best-selling authors, which is some feat really. And it's down to them and what they've done. And I was just involved in tidying it up and make sure it looked beautiful when it came out, the book. And the book does look beautiful. And even more so, it's got some beautiful and powerful stories in it. So thank you, Glory, for the opportunity. And thank you to each of you for trusting me to be able to work with your stories and to just give them a final little spit and polish, as we would have said when I was in the military. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. Our very first person that I'm going to introduce today is Miss Joanne Barker. She's not only an author in the book, but she is also one of our Ultimate Music Theory team members, and she's been very instrumental in helping me put everything together. So I'm very grateful. So Joanne, please introduce yourself and why you began composing.
I'm Joanne Barker. I live in southwestern Ontario, Canada, just not far from Toronto, not far from Detroit, Michigan. The reason I started composing originally was I heard these sounds in my head and they had to come out somewhere. Little did I know that those sounds would someday lead me to composing my own music for my students to play. And that's how it all started. And I became more of a published composer because I just couldn't find the right material for my students that worked for me. That's my story.
Yeah. That's amazing. You just never know what's going to inspire you, right? Like sometimes we write for ourselves and sometimes we write for others and sometimes we write just because emotionally we need to get it out. So it's amazing to hear all of these stories. Mark, let's move on to you. We're going to travel across. We were in Canada. We're in Scotland and Canada. Now, Mark, we're going to...
Hi, I'm Mark Matthews and I'm in a little place called Wollongong, which is 80 kilometres south from Sydney, the state capital. I'm 1,000 kilometres south of Gillian Anderson, my publisher up there in Brisbane. And I want to introduce you also to my music mascot, Sebastian. So if you'd like to say, "G'day, Sebastian," that's the best Aussie word you can say. So it's wonderful to be a part of this. Why did I start to compose? It was because I had to. I was in the Yamaha Electone Festival in my teenage years. And as I worked my way through this festival, I realized you had to improvise. So I had a crash course in improvisation. Then if you wanted to represent your country, you had to compose an own composition. So I had to really learn all of this stuff in my late teens. But into my early 20s, what I found, and my current compositions are subtitled Music for the Heart and Soul, piano solos on life, love, and friendship, and the experiences of life, and my relationship with my family and my friends and nature just caused me to respond. And the melodies I hear in people's voices and in the relationships and friendship and in nature stir me to compose. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And, you know, it's interesting that you said the melody that you hear in people's voices. I really like that, because we do, even if you think about someone who's singing, you instantly can recognize the timbre in their voice and just the way they deliver. And so I'm sure I'll now be very careful when I'm speaking, knowing that you're analyzing the voice and the pitch. And
No, I'm actually feeling it.
Are you? Okay, good. I'm just exuding gratitude right now. So thank you so much, Mark. Caroline, what's your story? Now we've been to Australia, and now we're going to
Seattle, Washington.
Yay!
My name is Carolyn Quinn. I'm from Seattle, Washington. It's such a great honor to be here. My composing story started when I was a music therapist in a medical center years and years and years ago. And although I was doing a lot of little ditties for the children when they'd come into the music circle, the music composing took a serious turn when I was faced with the fact that one of my little ones, my darling little girls, was dying of childhood cancer. In fact, she did pass on. And I remember sitting at the piano and just kind of lost, kind of looking, how do I process this? And I just started playing seventh chords, just back and forth. And that music just seemed to reflect how I was feeling, that kind of chaotic, kind of living without answers kind of feel. And I did write my first song from there. And then I went on to write many, many more things for my family and for parties and for celebrations and for funerals and celebrations of life. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. And now I get to teach my own students the gift of composing. And so that's me. Yes. I love it.
And thank you, because that really is continuing the legacy, right? And how we just write how we feel, and music can just move us and just get us excited and pumped up, and sometimes just makes you cry. I know my husband is a songwriter as well, and there's a couple of songs when he starts to play the first few notes, I say, oh no, I can't listen to that, because it just makes me cry. Like I just feel that passion so deeply. So thank you. I'm glad you're continuing the legacy, Caroline, and teaching your students now how to compose. So next up is Miss Adrienne.
Hello, I'm Adrienne McKinney. I'm also in the United States. I'm over in Kentucky. I'm a little further away than Caroline. I began composing because in college, when I was practicing for recitals and learning new repertoire, I decided that, I got a little bored after a while and wanted to improvise my own material. So I spent quite a bit of time improvising. And this is when we had, tape cassettes. So I would actually record my improvisations. And so I probably have hours and hours of this material that I never even listened to. But ultimately, I ended up jotting down some material and actually composing a few pieces as a student. And many years later, it occurred to me that my own piano students could use some help with some technical ideas or some, just some even musical ideas. And I had this material that I'd never used. So it occurred to me at that point that, hey, I need to actually compose. So then it became more of a serious endeavor for me.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it, Adrienne, how you just never know what can start as a little improvisation and then lead to the next steps. Like it's powerful. And it's why I'm so happy that, you're all here today. Because sometimes when you think of composers, we think of, Bach, Beethoven and the boys, and we don't realize that there's living composers that are just creating this whole new world of music, and not only creating this world of music, but now helping others to start that journey of self-expression. And it's so important important. So thank you for sharing that, Adrienne. Next up is Miss Pam. Hello, Pam.
Hello there. I'm Pam Turner, and I'm also in the United States, down south. As you can tell, if you're hearing me, I am in North Georgia, in the foothills of the mountains. I began composing for several reasons, really. The first one, like Joanna, just kept hearing things in my head. And they had, you just have to do something with that or it won't go away. And the second thing is I kept changing things in my students' music, beefing in, working that one passage, always one that's just weird. We always thought we could improve on things, and it's kind of a boost for students too to feel like they have their own version of something, and it's a little bit different. The other thing is I've been a church pianist forever, and as my responsibilities seem to snowball with preludes and offertories and postludes and choir music and our praise team, I needed more solid intermediate music. Not too easy, not too hard, something I was proud to play, but I didn't have to spend a month working on. So I started that and eventually went into some original pieces that were scripture inspired. So all of that took years and years to develop, but that's my motivation.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And one of the things that you mentioned was just about composing and playing things that are at a level where we can play and play and play. Sometimes when we think that we have to always find a piece that's going to challenge us, but it's not always fun to just keep challenging it. Sometimes you just want to play for the sake of playing. So it's nice to just compose at as you said, Pam, where you can just open the book and play lots of music without having to work too hard all the time, but still sound like you're kind of pretty cool, right? I know one of my favorites is playing at Christmas music, and I have my favorite book, and it's challenging enough that I do have to practice a little, but not so much that I have to start, a year in advance as if you were to do a big exam or something. So thank you for that, Pam. Mr. John, sir, how are you today?
I am great, Glory. Pleasure to be here. I'm in Canada, in Kingston, Ontario, which is pretty much equidistant from Toronto, Montreal. And I became a composer because I pretty much was a composer from about the age of 5 or 6, sitting at the piano improvising, and was blessed to grow up in Calgary, where there was a local music festival and they had a composition class. And from an early age, I started competing in that class. And my parents will attest to this. At the age of 12, I said I was going to be a composer. I just made that my profession. And being the oldest of 6 kids, I think they were just glad that someone knew what they were doing and no one cared. Yeah. And I went off and did it. But I have an academic bent and music theory bent. And so I did the complete bachelor, master's, doctorate, and I've been teaching at the same university for 35 years. So obviously have no real ambition to go anywhere else and get a better job, because this is the best one I could possibly have.
You are just lucky, John. You're just, but you've had so many accolades as well. I mean, when you think about starting that young and when you see someone and they're, a Juno Award winner and you think, oh, wow, they're lucky. No, it's not luck. It's a lot of hard work. It's perseverance. It's not something they just give out because you really have worked so hard, and congratulations again, because that's, it's such an honor, and we're really proud of all of the things that you've done. So bravo. Thank you, John. We're going over to Bradley. So we've been to Canada, and now where are we now, Mr. Bradley?
Right at the moment, I'm on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains that Pam described. I'm in Southern Ohio in the foothills of Appalachia. And if you don't say that correctly, we're throwing Appalachia. So anyway, I just self-describe as a jazz pianist, composer, author, multi-instrumentalist, and educator specializing in improvisation. And the sort of cheap answer to why I began composing is that my memory was not extensive enough to keep hold of all the things I was playing and wanting to hang on to. So I started, figuring out how to write that down. But the longer answer is that it came out of my environment. Like John mentioned, I lived in a musical family with very musical parents and older brothers that inspired me. One of them was in music school studying composition when I was 8 years old. In fact, he's another chapter in this book. And I would say that for me, it has never been just composer, as you heard from my bio. This is just one sort of block in the key word here is integrated, a very integrated musical career where I've played everything from rock and roll gigs to classical concerts and jazz concerts, and worked with an opera company and, writing jazz publications. It goes on and on. Learning new instruments. I did a gig on Thursday on this instrument, the mandolin. And so the composing is just, while we describe that as a separate tentacle, it all overlaps and flows back and forth. An idea learned improvising shows up in a piece, a new pattern in a piece shows up while improvising. I'm just living the musical life and having a lot of fun doing it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Bradley and I met a long time ago. It was at a conference. I think we were in Texas, maybe. Sounds familiar. And I remember he was talking about, how the classical pianist just has to read. And even though we all desire to improvise, if you're not given that opportunity as a young student, sometimes, such as myself, here I was older, never having that opportunity to compose or even improvise. It was just read what's on the page and there you go. But somehow I still had that desire. So I remember Bradley being across the aisle from me, and we both had our booths there. And he was saying, well, Gloria, you want to learn how to improvise? I'm like, yeah, how should I get started? So it's so great that you're providing that, because really we need it. Even older beginners, if you don't have an opportunity to start composing when you're young, you're never too late, right? You can always
I'll just throw in that all my students are adults, so it's never too late.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bradley. And Miss Camara, I think we're heading back to Canada.
Hennessy, and what a pleasure it is to be amongst such esteemed authors and musician educators.
Okay, so next up we're going to go to Eric. And Eric, whereabouts are you in the world?
Hi, Glory. Thanks for having me today. What an honor to be part of this wonderful group. I'm coming to you from Wisconsin in the USA, and it's beautiful out, so I'm enjoying the weather. But anyway, the reason I got started composing music is I've been, just like Pam, I've been a church musician my whole life, and I love inspiring people with my music. I would do hymn arrangements, but I also did a lot of original music, and I just love the feeling that you get when you are inspiring people and when they respond to that in kind. When you have really moved someone emotionally, there's no better feeling than when you get that feedback. And so that just keeps me going. I just love it. And it's just been a blessing. So that's my why.
Yeah, thank you. And again, which is what Wendy said at the top when we started, you really need to read the chapters in the book. As Wendy said, she cried, she laughed, she was moved. She was just, it's such a powerful thing when you read someone's stories, and they're all so different. So I know, Eric, when I was reading yours in The Wishing Well, I believe it was called, and it's just, it's like a secret. Like you just can't wait to go, well, what happened? What happened? So thank you for sharing that, Eric. We're off to Australia again. Hello, Gillian.
Hello. Yes, I'm from Australia, and I'm about halfway down. I'm in Brisbane, Australia, which is near, if you've been to Australia, near Gold Coast, Byron Bay, where very famous movie stars live, or Noosa. So beaches, lots of beaches, very like Southern California. the weather, and I was just checking the temperature today. It's currently 13 degrees, which is 56, but it's going to 76 degrees today. So even though it's still winter, it feels like beautiful spring day. So we're very lucky. And how I got started, it's amazing how many of us got started in a very similar way. And I often think that it was an accident, really. So, you know, in my teenage years, yeah, the pop music would come out and I would get the sheet music and learn it the way it was written, go, this is not good. Yes. So I'd be mucking around with it to make it sound better and making improvements, like Pam said, and just trying to kind of make it sound a bit more like the piece. So they're kind of, you know, experimenting there, I guess, with sound. It was always been about sound for me. But cycle forward to when my business partner Paul and I were going to start our own, launch our own music education system. Or actually for our schools, we wanted material and we tried to find books that actually suited what we wanted to teach in our curriculum, and we couldn't find anything. So that kind of meant, right, we didn't have any money. So that kind of meant, like, necessity was the mother of all invention. Okay, someone's going to have to write this stuff, these pieces. We knew what the pieces had to do. It was pretty, you know, I guess I'm a pedagogical composer, really. You know, it's pretty easy then when you got a formula. And then, but life has these funny twists and turns, and a few years back we had to write an early childhood. We didn't need an early childhood program, so that instead of just sort of making sure I needed piano pieces and piano arrangements and that kind of thing, I actually had to start writing songs, which is a whole new area. But I'm so grateful that I've had this opportunity to kind of explore this creative side of myself and to, you know, and to come to do this work. So yeah, and like Bradley, it's part of one of the many things that I do, and I don't do it all the time. And I sometimes have to get in that zone. It takes me a little while of just sitting and playing and listening to the sound to get there, and then at the end of the day of doing composing, it's just exhilarating. It's fantastic. So I'm very grateful.
Well, it's interesting, Gillian, that you said you need to get in the zone. I remember when my husband was writing his Christmas album in July, and talk about getting in the zone. And so I thought, well, maybe I could help him. So I actually made Christmas dinner and I decorated everything in the music studio, and I put all the lights on, and he had gone out for the day, and he came back and he said, what is this? And I said, inspiration. So off he went to write. And I wrote a little bit about it in my chapter. So you'll have to read the book to find out what happened.
That's fantastic.
So yes, you've inspired us, Gillian. Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Elizabeth, you're up next.
Hi, Glory, and hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Garland, and I am in New Mexico, USA, a land of enchantment. And as you can see, it's like quite bright and light here, even though all of my curtains are actually closed. I began composing, I began messing around when I was a little kid, but studying classical piano and really that was my life path, was to, I thought, to become a concert pianist. And through a series of just sort of things that happened, I took a different path and started to, need to find another outlet for expression. And so I started composing. And, honestly, the first thing I ever wrote down was a piece, just because I was totally, penniless in college, for my boyfriend, for a song for him. And then I started to identify myself as a composer. And I was sitting with some guys who had made a film, and they needed a composition for that film. And I said, I'm your man. I will, make your music for your film. And that collaboration was so inspiring that I feel like I'm kind of always trying to recreate, that collaborative, wonderful, creative space.
Mm-hmm. you know, it's funny when you said, you know, your boyfriend, and I thought, isn't it interesting how, you know, Taylor Swift, the breakup songs, like we all get inspiration, and sometimes it's from relationships, and sometimes it's from nature and walks in the park, and sometimes it's out of necessity, and like we all have different reasons. So lucky boyfriend that you were inspired by him. Thanks for sharing, Elizabeth. And Miss Rebecca, I think we're traveling back up north.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Maxner, and I'm from Hansport, Nova Scotia, and I'm on the east coast of Canada, in Canada's Ocean Playground. And I started composing at a very young age because I started improvising on the piano before I even can remember, like longer than my memory lasts. I would toddle up to the piano and I wouldn't bang on the keys. I would really play with a lot of sensitivity, and people would whisper and they'd say, oh, it sounds like she's playing something. And my older brother and sister were in piano lessons. I would imitate what they were playing. But my family was very, very large, and one of my brothers married a singer from a gospel singing family, so I have a lot of deep roots in many different musical traditions. And when I was 12, my sister said, we have to watch the movie Amadeus, and I became a Mozart fanatic. Yes. And I dressed up as Mozart, like I was cosplaying as Mozart. And at that age, I'm like John Burge, I wanted to be a composer from the age of 12, and I entered composition contests, and I went into university and I got a degree. But music is simply something that I cannot not do. Like I have to. I think that I would lose a limb if I stopped making music. So for me, I started to become a composer because it's just in me from my whole life.
Yeah. And sometimes it's almost like the universe just gives you that. I think, you know, we're all so blessed because we really are the creatives, and we've been given an opportunity to take that creativity and share it with the world. And so many times you think of people that maybe are writing and, you know, they feel that same passion that you do, Rebecca, but they maybe don't know how to get started, or even that someone else would be interested in hearing their music. So I'm really hoping that this is going to be an inspiration for them to say, you know what, if Rebecca can do it, and Elizabeth and Gillian and Eric and Adrian and Pam and John and Bradley, you know, why can't I? Like, there's no reason why you can't. You just have to get started. And hopefully you can resonate with one of these stories and say, that sounds like me. So if she can do it or he can do it, I can do it. So thank you for sharing that. Miss Linda, I think we're heading over to another coast right now.
Hello from the West Coast. I'm Linda Gould, and I live in Victoria, BC, just north of Seattle. And Glory, you've done such an amazing thing. This, I agree with what you say, inspiring other people, because if we can do it, they can do it too. My journey is similar to a lot of the other journeys. It was actually my daughter that inspired me to get the courage to actually compose and publish. She woke up one morning, age 5, singing this really cute little song, complete with lyrics, beautiful melody. And I said, hey, let's take it to the piano. Yeah. Let's figure out some chords. We stuck it in a magazine called Piano Explorer. She got published. It was just like this wonderful moment. And I had done a lot of arranging. I was a small-handed pianist and had to constantly rewrite music in order to make it sound the way the composer wanted, but fit my hand. I had done orchestral arranging at university. And so with all that, when I found myself in front of a group of adults and they all wanted to learn off of lead sheets, like Bradley will totally understand, yeah. I needed to create some pieces for them, and it just started pouring out. And I had so much fun, and I had a need, and I had people to play it, and then it just blossomed into a whole bunch of songs and books from there.
Yeah. That's perfect.
I wanted to say, go ahead. I just want to say a quick hi to John, because I too grew up in the Calgary Kiwanis Music Festival.
Yay! Well, you know what's interesting is we're sharing these amazing, like, I don't think you realize I'm so filled with gratitude and joy right now to just hear all of these stories and how music has impacted your life, and you've made a career out of this. And, you know, the next person I'm going to introduce is Richard. And and the reason I'm just pausing here is because we've talked about ourselves as composers. And then there's also the composer who becomes the performer, the recording artist. Like it goes in different, sometimes we publish books, sometimes we write for purpose of helping other people, you know, through something. And sometimes we just compose because we want to take it into an entertainment business. So with that, I'll introduce Richard. Hi, Richard.
Yes, hello. Hello. Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here. And so it's such a global event, very exciting. But yeah, I was, you know, I was a little kid riding my tricycle around, bumping into the stereo as the Beatles records were playing. And I thought that music would be a good life. And I really have been a big music lover my whole time. And I was really fortunate to grow up in those early 70s where all the singer-songwriters were coming out. And the shift was from professional writers to more of everybody writing their own music and going out and performing it. So that's what I really wanted to do. And initially I took some trips down to Nashville thinking I was going to be a songwriter. And over time I realized that I much rather enjoyed to write and perform the songs on my own. And so that's what I've done. I've recorded the songs on my own. And even when they seem like they're about somebody else, they're pretty much autobiographical. And if you were able to figure out the right order of the songs, it's really a history of my life over the last 20 or 30 years. So I've got 4 albums out now, and I've got a couple of more that are in the works and should be out by the end of the year. So music is part of my life and my blood. I love it. And there's nothing like giving birth to children unless you write songs, and it's a close second.
Thank you, Richard. And you know, it's interesting because you've just given us all a challenge. So if you go to listen to Richard's music, you'll have to figure out which order of life events happened if they're all based on albums. So we'll make it a little challenge. So thank you for that, Richard. Miss Dominique, hello.
Hello, Glory. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity to talk to other composers as well. I'm coming from Spain right now, southern Spain in Andalusia, but I'm a British composer. And I would like to say how lovely it is to be on a panel with so many other female composers. I think this is a very unusual situation we find ourselves in. So well done for that. And very interestingly, like quite a few of your other panelists, the roots of my composition lie in improvisation. And I think this seems to be a very shared experience, listening to everybody's stories. My mum went to an art college, and in the art college was a piano. There was no creche, but there was a piano. So I used to be with a couple of her friends that would look after me while she was in her classes. And they would sit me down on their lap, and I would watch them play the piano. This one particular guy, he used to play boogie-woogie piano. Oh, yeah. And I was completely enthralled. I was about 4, and this was just the most extraordinary thing I'd ever heard. And that was it. I decided if there's a thing, this is the thing, and this is my thing. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love. So when Mum left the college and she finished her fashion degree, she bought the piano for like 75p, and it came back to our house. And it became my world. It was my musical doll's house. I'd sit all my teddies on the piano and my dolls across the keys, and on the music where you put the books, there was dolls. And I would play fairies and monsters, left and right hand. And I would improvise my way through games for hours. And I didn't have any brothers and sisters at that age. So I would do it because I would fill my days with adventures and improvisations. And for me, nothing ever was going to be any different. I was just going to find a way to do that for the rest of my life and figure out how to pay the bills on the side.
Yes. Well, and I think that's the other thing too, Dominique, when you get to do what you love to do and can, have success in it and live your dream lifestyle, which is pretty much, receiving the music and then just sharing it with the world and then still monetizing that business and serving other people, because I think that's the big thing. Sometimes we think that we compose for ourselves. It's a personal journey. And yet when you think about it, you're sharing that with so many people that can relate to your music. I mean, how many times have you heard someone say, oh, I really love that because, right? I understood. I felt that it meant something to me. So thank you for sharing that, Dominique, with your monsters and fairies. Mr. Eddie, hello.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning from Indonesia.
And it's interesting because we do have people from around the world. And so Eddie, if you can share your story of why you began your composing.
Yes, it was actually, I started my composition journey when I was, it's actually last year. I joined a competition for composing an anthem for the World Indonesian Student Associations.
Yes. So
I won the champion, and yeah, I was really over the moon, and yeah, I actually couldn't believe how I can be the winner. But one thing that I could make sure myself, I really put everything, I really put my heart to the composition. Yeah. And as the student, I mean, the international student, last time that was my last chance to join, because I have graduated this year.
Yes.
And it was really fortunate enough to be a part of that competition. Yeah. And yeah, I really amazed to myself, because I think I have such a potential for composing, because that was my first time joining the competition. And I think, yeah, I still couldn't believe that I composed the Legacy, because it's going to be sung by the whole students in the world, yeah, for Indonesian students, and really it's such a legacy for me and for every students, Indonesian student around the world. So
yes,
I'm so excited, and by that I start to focus on composing again, because I think I really in love to compose music, because I can express the music, I can express myself, and then I can inspire others through my music as well. And I hope that, yeah, music can be something that really essential to everyone's life, and hope that everyone can read my chapter and they can get inspired how to start their journey on composition. So
thank you.
Yeah, that's such a really inspirational story, I think. Yes. It takes a lot of process, struggle, and it's not easy to compose, honestly.
It's true. And thank you so much for sharing that. I'm really proud that we have our composers and author contributors are from the United Kingdom, from Canada, from Australia, Indonesia, Israel, the United States, and of course our editor, Wendy, who's from Scotland. And I just am so grateful that all of you have shared your very powerful journey with us today. It is in The Power of Why, 25 musicians composed a legacy. Well, I'm just going to ask you to give me one word, or maybe two if you need two words, but just in wrapping up our conversation today, is how did the experience of writing your why in this book, how did it make you feel as you reflected on your journey from the beginning to where you are now? So if you can just one or two words. My word would be inspired. So you can't steal my word. Haha. I was definitely inspired by all of your stories. And I want to say a personal thank you for that. Joanne?
Enriched.
Enriched. Mark?
I think the word would have to be, I feel privileged to be able to compose.
Caroline?
Joanne took my word, enriched, so I'll say blessed.
Blessed is nice. Okay. Adrian?
Grateful.
Grateful. Pam?
I would say empowered.
Empowered. John?
Oh, grateful's way up at the top. Even if someone said it first, I was going to add it there. There's just no other word that would come immediately to mind.
Yeah. How about you, Bradley? What's your word?
Whatever the opposite of precious is. Less and less precious and more, just get on with it.
Chimera, what is your word?
Oh, joyous and uplifted.
Joyous. I like that word. That's a good word. Eric?
Well, you've all taken all my words. So I'm just going to say love and joy.
Love and joy. Okay. Gillian?
I had grateful too. It just came straight out there. Grateful that I was able to sit down and actually look at this and go, oh my goodness, I have composed a legacy.
Yes,
Grateful.
You really have. Yes. Elizabeth, what's your word?
You won't believe it was grateful too. So unusual.
Unusual. Okay. You can have two words. Rebecca?
My word is that I was just ready to reflect on what I'd already done in my life because I'm kind of looking ahead what more I want to do. So ready is my word.
Ready. Yeah, that's a good word. Linda?
I was in awe. I was just in awe of as the process went through.
Yeah,
and
that's a good word too. Sometimes we just kind of go, wow, like it just really hits us. Richard, how about you?
I think it's two words. It's peace and love.
Peace and love.
That's three words.
Dominique?
Reflective.
Reflective, yes. Eddie, what's your word?
Well, I like to say dedication and passion.
Dedication, yes. And I just, I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart because I know how much time it takes to write and think, as a reader, when you're reading everyone's chapter that are in the book, you'll be inspired and it will move you. But they had to really not only dig deep, but take the time to make sure that the way that they were presenting it would make sense for the reader, which is really where Wendy comes in. She has sort of the final edit to say, does it make sense? And can it really give the message that you want? Do you have a final word, Miss Wendy?
Humbled.
Humbled.
That I can be part of this. And it's all down to all of you guys. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I often will call on Joanne and I'll say, I need a word. And it's kind of my ongoing joke with my team because sometimes when I'm writing, we think about what words can we use, and words are the same as notes. We've all talked about our music notes and are we going to change it from a major to a minor? I mean, it's only one half step, right? So words matter, music matters. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Make sure you go out and grab your book and be inspired and step outside your comfort zone and just start to improvise and compose and share it with us on our Facebook group because we would love to hear your music as well. So thanks again, everybody, and have an amazing day. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.